I have rented to probably around 200 different applicants who have Section 8, and I am to the point now where I am exclusively renting only to people with Section 8. And in this video, I will tell you why. I will tell you who I am. I'm going to cover those two myths that you are convinced why you shouldn't rent to people with Section 8. Myth number one, that they trash your house, and myth number two, all those inspections. And then I'm going to go into 8 benefits that maybe you don't know about, why I always choose to rent to people on Section 8. So let's get into it. I'm Monique Burns. My husband and I buy houses in Detroit. We renovate them and we sell them to investors from all over the country and all over the world. There's still a really good return on investment here in Detroit. So if you're interested in that, go to the section below and you'll see a link to what I have for sale at this time. Also below, if you want to skip to any of the things, if right along there is the chapters section, and that'll skip you right to the parts that you care about. It is super helpful to me if you like and subscribe and share this video, and it helps me want to give you more of this quality information. My husband and I started renting to people. Our very first tenant was in 2008 and has Section 8, and she is still our tenant, and it went really well with her, and so it encouraged us to continue. I've rented to many people that do not have Section 8 as well. I had a property management company from 2015 to 2020, and that's where a majority of these went, but I'm still in our house flipping business. I'm still placing a tenant before we sell the house, and I'm very careful with who I place, and I target Section 8. So let's get into the 2 myths. Number one, that they trash your house. This is the biggest thing. Landlords are always telling me, I will not rent to somebody with Section 8 because I heard, or I had one once and they trashed my house. And I think, do you know how many I've had? They don't ever ask me that. They just declare right off the bat, this is why I don't do it. And I'm thinking to myself, so like if the person who trashed your house had brown hair, would you be like, I never rent to anybody with brown hair? Come on. So my next question I'll ask that kind of person is, well, when you were doing the background check on that tenant, did you go see how they live now? And the answer is always no. I made another video on how I do that home visit. I regularly go see how they live now, and I will know from the house that they're renting now if they're going to trash my house or not, which means that I can't rent to people that are living with someone, like their first rental, or they're living with friends and family or something like that. I have to just pick people that already have experience renting as renters. You know, it's like hiring somebody that has some job experience. The other big myth is like these inspections, they're so hard, they're so awful. You know, they are a challenge. We don't like it that they come inspect the house, then you end up doing things that you might not have done repair-wise, otherwise. But if you're not a slumlord, they're really nothing to fear. They're coming to check to make sure that the batteries are still in the smoke detector. I made another video. I forced my husband, who doesn't like to be on camera, to help me with a video of how to pass a Section 8 inspection. Go through that and see if it's doable for you, if it's something that you could even do with your house. It depends on your standards. If you're a slumlord, definitely don't rent to someone with Section 8. And now what's different too, in Detroit anyway, is that the inspections have gone to every 2 years. So that's not really so bad. And whatever comes up at the inspections, a lot of times it's just tenant caused damage. And it's frustrating that we have to fix that in order to pass the inspection. I mean, that's a gripe that people give, but you can always bill it back to the tenant. So that's not something like that's worth not doing it. And because of all the rest of these 8 benefits I'm going to go into, we can deal with an inspection every other year. Not such a big deal. So number 8, I bet you didn't know that many Section 8 offices have these bonus programs. Now, they're not going to tell you, you have to ask them. And in these bonus programs, they will cover different turnover costs. So between tenants, if the tenant did a lot of damage to your house, they're going to help cover some of that expense. So if you do get an applicant on Section 8, ask for their caseworker's email address and email them and say, I'm really on the fence about renting to Section 8, but I heard sometimes you have these programs where you will help pay for some of the damages. So find that out. Number 7 is what I call that 30% rule. It makes the background check so much easier that Section 8 examines all their income, including child support, all the things that we don't really have that good of access to. Section 8 has verified all that and said that you, tenant, have to pay 30% of that money coming in to the landlord, so we don't have to do that. It's quite nice. Number 6. In Detroit, we actually get higher rent. So I don't know where you are or what your rents are, but where I am in Detroit, I can push the envelope and get a higher rent from a Section 8 tenant than I can from a cash paying tenant. And you have to just like go on Zillow and look around and see what houses are running for to state your rent level. And if you go to my blog, I'll have different links in there for you. There's going to be a link to the HUD FMR. You can also Google it. But the HUD FMR says this is the max amount that Section 8 will pay for this many bedroom house in your county. So that's something worth looking at. For me in a low income area, it's great. I can push it and get the top. Number 5, typically I have a higher pool of applicants because I actually will put right on my ads, I will stamp it. I use Canva and I take a picture of the front of the house and I write on it Section 8 only, or we love Section 8. And that way I get a lot of people calling me with Section 8 and a lot of landlords are denying Section 8. The tide has changed a little bit in Detroit because the courts have changed in Detroit and the evictions take a whole lot longer now. Number 4, I bet you didn't know this one. When you get an applicant, you can email their caseworker and ask for a landlord reference. They don't give you the current landlord, but they'll give you the last landlord. And you can call that landlord and find out how were they as a tenant? How much turnover expenses did you have? What did they do to the house? It's really, really nice that that's something that they can do, because on applications, we never really know who those references are. There's ways to verify it. You'll see in that video I said about how I do background checks. Number 3, they tend to stay longer. I said my first tenant, 2008, she's still in my house. You know, it's expensive to move. They don't have that much income. I think that's why it is. But in Detroit, it's because if they have a good landlord who's not a slumlord, if they like the property management, they'll stay. Number 2, I like this one a lot. You can tattle on them. So whenever they have a lease violation, you can say, you know what, you got to do this thing, because if you don't, I'm required to report this to your caseworker. And the more of these lease violations make their way to their caseworker, the higher they are at risk of losing their voucher. And the other thing is that Section 8 tenants, along the lines of the tattling thing, they don't ever want their caseworker finding out that they had a full eviction. And a full eviction is if the bailiff comes to the house and removes them. If you had to hire that to be done, that's a full eviction. That will make them lose their voucher. So if it was so terrible and you did have to evict this tenant, they're probably going to pack up and move before that last big expense. It's a benefit. And then my number 1 best part about having Section 8 tenants, it's the cash flow. Every month on like the 3rd, 4th, 5th, somewhere in there, depending on which housing commission, bam, there's that money right in my bank account. I know every month I'm going to get this amount of money. I can count on it. And I really like that. If you have questions, please shoot me an email. Check the info section below. Go to my blog. I appreciate you watching this.